सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ Till now we have studied the two, the law of destiny and the law of karma, based on the law cause and effect. The supreme law is known as cause and effect, and that cause and effect we discussed it in two ways. One is the law of destiny, and the other one is the law of karma. In that we discussed prarabdha, purushartha, the types of karmas as in sanchita karma, agami karma, prarabdha karma, etc. And also we saw at any point of time a human being is a combination of two, the past and the present, the prarabdha and the purushartha. What you meet in life is prarabdha, how you meet it is purushartha. Up to this we have, I'm just summarizing what we have studied till now. So what you meet in life, the situation is because of prarabdha. How you meet it is purushartha. You have no choice over the situation. You have a choice over how you deal with the situation. That is the prarabdha and purushartha. So generally, if we see, we ask about what created the very situation itself. One is the situation created me handling it. Another is what is it that has created that situation? What created that situation? It's your own action. And when we say it's your own action, what went into that action that decides the karma? That is very important to understand. If we understand that, we know how to employ purushartha effectively. This is the corollary that we are adding into the text. Even though the text doesn't say about it directly, we are adding it. I am adding it, Ganesh. Text it's not there. I am adding it. We have done something, as a result of which we have accumulated some karma, and then we say it is prarabdha, how you can handle it, etc. Now the question is, what is it that we didn't do in the past and what is it that we have to do now? How to effectively make use of the purushartha so that the karma changes. That effective making use of purushartha is the guiding principle behind action. So the guiding principle behind action, the absence of the guiding principle in the past resulted in certain karmas. If that guiding principle is employed now, which is making use of the purushartha effectively, the karma will be different. So, what goes into making that? What should be the guiding force behind that action that results in proper karma? Technically, that guiding force is called dharma. In Sanskrit language, it's called dharma. So, in order to effectively do karma, you need an understanding of dharma. For all practical purposes, you do only karma, you don't do dharma. You can do only karma, you do action only. But that action is guided by dharma. Dharma is a proper discrimination. Dharma is the right understanding. Dharma means proper discrimination, right discrimination. What is the modern day word for discrimination? Because the English word discrimination now has a negative connotation. What are the synonyms that you can use? Every time I'm trying to see some synonym, I'm not able to get it. Discrimination. Because nowadays discrimination has a negative connotation. So dharma is the right discrimination. The right discrimination as in the right understanding. So when that right understanding guides the action, that is making right use of Purushartha. So technically it is called dharma. Let dharma guide your actions. Basically, let dharma guide your actions. Dharma very loosely translated as values, moral, ethical values, principles. It is not that. We will see that. The order of dharma has two. The order of dharma itself has two. One is known as universal. Samanya dharma it is called. Another one is called Vishesha dharma. Samanya dharma means general universal values, which is common sense. You don't need any great teacher to come and tell you that. Certain common universal values. That is called Samanya dharma. And then another one is called Vishesha dharma. So dharma is nothing but a derivative. You derive something. The derivative is called dharma. Now, on what basis you derive? On what basis you derive? The derivative is this, which we saw some time back. The derivative is what you don't want others to do to you, you don't do that to another. That's all. That's the derivative. From that, certain things or certain principles are derived. And the derivation, if it guides the action, you are making proper use of Purushartha. How do we know that we are making proper use of Purushartha? The consequences of that Purushartha would be one of growth, would be one of spiritual evolution. You can call it spiritual evolution, you can call it self-development. Doesn't make any difference. It's just playing around with words, that's all. Concept is this. The Purushartha is action, and action has to be guided by some principles. When those principles guide the action, the karma, here we mean karma means the result. That's why when we started doing this lesson, we said karma means action, karma means the consequence of the action. And we keep using this word karma means action, karma means consequence. Either we keep interchanging. So the consequence of it is, a pleasant state of existence, a growth. It means you have made effective use of Purushartha. A disturbed, agitated state of existence, it means you didn't make proper use of Purushartha. But either way, you have been acting. Either way, you have been into karma. Karma never stopped. Action never stopped. For We have studied already that formula. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu dishtatya akarmakrit. You cannot be inactive. You cannot be inactive. Even for a split second, you cannot remain inactive. So we have seen that already. From that, what do we understand? Useful action or useless action. That's all. Action continues. It can be a useless action or it can be a useful action. It boils down only to two things now. How does it turn into useful? What determines it is a useful action? What determines that it is a useless action? And this is what is going to help us understanding birth and death is what is going to come with us in the reincarnation. Because we say it is this karma that is going to travel with you. Nothing else is going to travel with you. It means actions has to be guided by some values, principles. And those values and principles is of two. Certain common universal and then certain Vishesha. A life of karma, if it is based on dharma, which is proper use of purushartha. A life of karma based on impulses, likes and dislikes, which is adharma, has its own consequence. What are the values? What are those values? Second, who fixes these values? Number three, how obliged I am to accept it or say it doesn't make any sense. These are the questions. First is, who fixes these values? There is no collective human being sitting together deciding those values. These dharma are there in nature. That's why when it comes to Vedanta, we add a word sanatana, eternal dharma. Eternal dharma meaning which is not man-made. So first thing that we understand is it is not a human-made dharma, because human-made dharma means as the human being keeps changing, the dharma also keeps changing. As he evolves, it also keeps changing. As they change, it keeps changing. So what is the dharma? From samanya dharma, the complication starts with Vishesha dharma. And what is the formula for Vishesha dharma? There is only one formula for Vishesha dharma. You play various roles. You play various roles and every role has a script. And that script is called dharma. That's all. There's no complication at all. You play various roles and every role has its own script. And that script is what we call as dharma. Venkatachala, are you able to follow? That's all it is. It's not complicated at all. Where it gets complicated is what is the dharma in one role. If we mix it up in another role, it gets complicated. This is where the clarity comes. As a student, what is my dharma? If I'm a student, what is my dharma? If I am living an active life, what is my dharma? If I am living a life of withdrawal, what is my dharma? If I want to aspire, if I want moksha, self-realization, what is my dharma? This is called Vishesha dharma. The beauty of the knowledge is every role has its own. As I said, every role has a script. As a son, there is a script. As a father, there is a script. As a husband, there is a script. As the teacher, there is a script. As a friend, there is a script. As an enemy, there is a script for that also. All that you've got to do is what? Know that and act accordingly. Knowing that script and acting accordingly is what poetically we call as Sakshi, detached actor. He's not getting involved in the roles because he understands the role, he understands the script, comes onto the stage, play the role and leave. That is proper, that is making use of Purushartha in the right sense. If we make proper use of Purushartha in this sense, what happens is the past gets wiped out and the future becomes more evolutionary. It has got to do with the action. Law of karma says, no, it is not. It has got nothing to do with the action. It has got to do with the guiding principle behind the action. In a very general way, you can call it as attitude. In a very general way, you can call it as attitude. Attitude means selfish or unselfish or selfless. But you got to go one step deeper than that and understand the role and what is your role and what is the script according to that role. That is why it's called the knowledge of life and living. Vedanta is the knowledge of life and living. What is life? Various roles is the life. If you are going through those various roles, the vast majority says, I will create my own script. That is living life in the way that is living life in the way that I want, according to my impulses, according to my raga dvesha, and then coming and complaining that life is unfair. And then coming back with the worry and anxiety and complaining that life is unfair. Vedanta says, karma is never unfair. Again, I repeat, karma is never unfair. Unfairness is of the mind, not of karma. It is, that is why karma is equated with Ishvara, God. Because you can't say God is unfair, no. Unfair God. We may believe God is unfair, but God is not, because the law, the God, all are synonyms, meaning there is an impartiality to it. It is an impartial functioning. Impartiality means it doesn't have any extra favor towards anybody, nor does it choose to punish somebody more. People say, I don't know, sir, why I am only punished like this? While everybody else is happy, only why am I going through this? They believe that they are chosen, while some are chosen to be blessed. They believe that they are chosen to suffer. The law of karma comes and says very clearly, it is nobody chooses it, or you have chosen it by yourself. What is the conclusion? The law of karma, in one word, what is law of karma? Law of karma is nothing but you blessing yourself. You can bless yourself, you can wish yourself better, or you can wish yourself destruction. Both happens through the medium of action. Evolution also happens through action. Destruction also happens through action. From this, what do we understand? Again, action per se is a neutral entity. That which supports or not supporting the action is resulting in karma. Are you able to follow? Through action only you are going to evolve. Through action only you are going to devolve. It means the same entity becomes a neutral entity. It means something that is guiding it makes it evolutionary. That something that is not guiding it is the cause for your downfall. What is that guiding force? Which purushartha? Which makes use of this purushartha? That guiding force is called dharma. And this dharma is like grammar rules. There are some grammar rules which allow changes. There are some rules which doesn't allow a change. There are some rules which allows you to change. There are some you cannot change. That which you cannot change and remains permanent is dharma. The dharma of English language is what? 26 alphabets. And it's a permutation combination of these 26 alphabets in a way. It makes some, it makes, if you use it in a particular way, it gives a sense. You use it in a different way, it gives different sense. That freedom you have, but where you don't have freedom, that is understanding law of karma. Where you have freedom and where you don't have freedom, this understanding is law of karma. Are you able to follow? Where you have freedom and where you don't have freedom. You don't have 100% freedom. At the same time, you are not 100% bound either. That's why we give this example. You are free to choose your destination, but you are bound by the road rules. Are you able to follow? I come onto the road, I come onto the junction. There are 4 roads. One I can go to Annanagar, one I can go to Adayar, one I can go this direction, one I can go towards Bangalore. I have freedom to choose my destination. Where your freedom lies in choosing your destination. Where you don't have freedom, as soon as you get onto the road, you are bound by the rules of the road. That rules of the road is dharma. Purushartha is under any circumstances, under all circumstances, adhering to the road rules. Even at times, if it looks like you are deviating from the road rule. Even at times, it may appear like you are deviating from the road rules, but you are not deviating. Example, you are driving, you don't cross the clear. Even if you put the 4 feet concrete barrier, the fellow is going on the other side. The car is, if they go by car on the other side, what do we do? This morning I was in that, this Nandanam junction here. There is a huge thing, that concrete, 1 kilometer, that concrete barrier is. And it takes about 5-7 minutes to cross that place. By the time that signal is red, even the car starts going on the. That is a violation. Supposing you are driving and there is a drunken driver coming against you. You know that that fellow is a drunken driver, is coming. What would you do? You cross. And there is a policeman standing and watching you crossing, violating the rule. Will the policeman punish you or say you did a good job? The policeman will say you did a good job because you averted a major accident. Otherwise, it would have become a very big accident. So, this is Visesha Dharma. Now, you follow the rules even when it appears like you are violating the rule. In effect, you are not violating the truth. That is proper use of Purushartha. So, when we talk about action, we have to necessarily associate action with Dharma. We have to necessarily associate action with Dharma. This is what I wanted to say and conclude the discussion, not conclude the discussion. We will go to birth and death. Before we go into birth and death, I thought we'll quickly summarize that prarabdha, that purushartha, and all are born of action. All karmas are born of action. So it is not those karmas are born of action, it is a consequence of action. When we say it is a consequence of action, it is not the consequence of the direct action, it is the consequence of the dharma that you followed while performing that action. Is it okay, Venkatachalam? It is the consequence of the dharma that you follow, is a consequence of the dharma that you followed while doing the action that determines the karma. What is the karma? The three karmas: Sanchita karma, Agami karma, and Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma, that which has already started. Agami, ready, next. That's the next one that is waiting to come. Sanchita is the total. The arrow that is shot, don't bother, because you can't do anything about it. Arrows that you have shot, nothing can be done. It will hit the target. But the arrow that you are about to release, you can control. And then you have control over the bag of arrows. So the arrow that you are about to release, Purushartha plays a role. Purushartha plays a role in the arrows that you have in your bag. But it has no role when it comes to the arrow that is already shot. So you know where it works and you also know where it doesn't work. You know where you have the freedom and you also know where you don't have freedom. So the karma is decided by the dharma. That's why in Vedanta, a lot of emphasis is placed on dharma. And this dharma is misunderstood as, this dharma is not understood as a law. This dharma is misunderstood as values. In Vedanta, we don't use the word value, we use the word law. In Vedanta, we always use the word law. We don't use the word value at all. That's why we call it as the law of life. Because value means it's more like a decoration. You go and buy coffee in Starbucks, they decorate the coffee, no? The decoration has got nothing to do with the taste. That's something they put. I don't know what all they put. Some leaf they put, some heart they put, so many things they put. It has got nothing to do with the taste of the coffee. So people believe that value systems are more like decorations. It means even if you don't have it also, coffee will still taste good. No, so life will taste good even if you don't have values. Just as even without the decoration, the coffee can taste good. So you can live life even without the values. And if you want it, it's a luxury. You may have it or you may not have it. Dharma is not that. Dharma is not that. Then what is dharma? Dharma is the roles that you have to play, and every role has a script. Stick to that script. That is Ramayana. That's what in the story Ramayana they try to talk about that. Every role has a particular script, and it will be overlapping. And you got to have this clarity. And when you have the clarity, you are following the dharma. This dharma is according to this dharma guides karma. At least rhyming இருக்கு dharma karma, isn't it? TR மாதிரி இருக்குது சங்கர், கரெக்டா? So you don't know TR, no? Yeah. It's not worth knowing. It's not nothing extraordinary. All the local people will laugh when we say TR because he's such a comedian he is. Well, his language, he doesn't make any sense, but I like him so much because the rhyming that he comes up with is extraordinary rhyming. So dharma, karma, all that sounds like action makes use of purushartha guided by dharma results in positive karma. If minus dharma, the consequences are negative karma, negative consequence. So the positive consequence and the negative consequence is not determined by action. It is determined by how much you are adhering to dharma. Are you able to follow now? So the consequences is not determined by action. The consequences are determined by how much you are adhering to dharma, how much you are following dharma. And this dharma, in a layperson's term, you can call as conviction. In a layperson's term, you can call it as a conviction. And a person is willing to live up to one's own conviction. And when you are willing to live up to your own conviction, there is a price that comes with it. That price is the consequence. That price. There is a price that comes with it. Isn't it? And Schopenhauer said, to die for your conviction is very easy. To live for your convictions are very difficult, he said. He said to live for your convictions are very, very difficult. To die for it is very easy because you just blow yourself up and you are gone. That's it. There is the problem after that. But then to live up to it means day in and day out, the situations brings about. Day in and day out, you face situations, and those situations comes up with its own challenges. What helps you? Dharma helps you. The knowledge of dharma. That's why Vedanta, another word for Vedanta is called Sanatana. Sanatana Dharma means certain fundamental rules that do not change. Is this okay? We'll start studying birth and death.
Birth and death. The universe displays a graceful progression of events. All evolution follows a perfect sequence of rise and fall, a rhythmic motion of construction and destruction. Night follows day, and day follows night. The seasons appear and disappear in regular succession, year after year. Birth, childhood, youth, old age, and death makes a progressive chain. Cause and effect project themselves endlessly. The law of causation works with mathematical precision. Yet people hold fanatical beliefs that there is no life after death or that there is. Such irrational beliefs lead you nowhere. The subject of birth and death is deep, unfathomable. You cannot dismiss it thus by such speculative notions. You must study the subjects carefully. Death and birth are merely a change of state, a movement from one experience to another. There is nothing terrible, abominable about death as people view it. Birth and death are two sides of a coin. There can be no birth without death, and no death without birth. Morning dies, evening is born. Evening dies, night is born. Night dies, morning is born. This chain of birth and death goes on perennially. So does the chain of birth, growth, decay, and death continue. The phenomena of birth and death brings about change. The world is in a continuous flux of change. Creation and destruction are the warp and the woof of the world. The play of these two powers maintain the mineral, vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms. Creation, destruction, and maintenance are three facets of the same phenomena. They are not separate from one another. In the chain of creation and destruction of the different facets in the day is maintained. Likewise, in the appearance and disappearance of the seasons, the year is maintained. In the progressive ages of life, the individual is maintained. The entire universe, therefore, is an expression of three powers of creation, destruction, and maintenance. The devotional people find it difficult to conceptualize the precise manifestation of nature. So the scriptures has personified these powers as gods. Brahma as the god of creation, Shiva as the god of destruction, Vishnu, god of maintenance. Also indicated to the individuals that there are one by combining the three gods in the form of Dattatreya. Some believe that when a person dies, nothing remains, that death is the end of the personality, and that there is no trace of him thereafter. Others disagree with this view. They do not consider death as finality. They believe in the continuity of life, and that the present incarnation is only a link in the chain of his entire life. Yet others posit the existence of imaginary realms of heaven and hell, where they believe humans go to after death. These beliefs are not based on rational analysis and derivation. Instead, you must collect relevant data, study them carefully, and draw intelligent conclusions from them. Only then would you get a clearer idea of the phenomena of birth and death. There is another strange phenomena concerning death. Though death is inevitable and everyone knows that all living beings are certain to die, none believes that it in practice. Young or old, healthy or unhealthy, even the terminally ill feel that death is far away. It is a wonder that nobody practically believes in death. Even at our ripe old age, people keep amassing wealth, enlarging their worldly relations. behaving as though death would never take hold of them. Intellectually, they may concede, but from practical point of view, they ignore their imminent end. It seems paradoxical. On the one hand, a person is so certain of his end. The very thought of death sends a quiver through his entire frame. His body turns cold at the mere mention of death, while on the other hand, it does not seem to bother him at all. He writes poetry, flourishes his art portraying death. What could be the reason for this paradox? How is it that the looming danger of death does not actually impede, disturb his life? Everyone expects to live on and on without being concerned about the end. The reason for this innate assurance of longevity is the immortal nature of the self within. Every human being is quintessentially the self. That being so, its immortal nature colors his material layers, which makes his individuality assume a sense of immortality and keeps him free from the thought of death.
Yeah. Birth and death. We spoke about the supreme law. We spoke about the dharma and the impartiality of the law. On observation, you find this. What is it? What you call as a day is nothing but a series of events put together. What you call as a year is nothing but a string of seasons together. And what you call as a life is nothing but series of experiences in the human, the progressive chain. In all this, why we call it as a, why this birth and death is called as a law? It's called as a law because it works with mathematical precision and no one is exempted from this. There is no exemption. That's where in the Puranic stories you find Rakshasas will do tapas. Meaning you don't have to be a rishi to do tapas. Even a Rakshasas can do tapas. That's what he says. You know that no, all Puranic story starts with Rakshasas doing tapas, not with rishis. And then they do tapas. Whatever tapas they do, they do. And Brahma will come and appear. And Brahma will ask, what do you want? I am pleased by your tapas. Tapas means concentrated, concerted activity towards a goal. That is tapas. So Brahma comes and asks, what is it that you want? Why are you doing this? What is it that you want? And the Rakshasa will say, I want immortality. Brahma says, what is the answer Brahma gives? I can't give you immortality because I myself is not immortal. How can I give you immortality? So, from Brahma down the line, the law is impartial. So you understand the impartiality of the law. Then, what is that manifestation of the law? The manifestation of the law is birth and death. What is the manifestation of the law? The manifestation of the law is birth and death. Second, the birth and death is a continuous non-stop phenomenon. It's not that birth happens at one point of time and death happens 70 years later. This birth and death is a continuous phenomenon. In the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks for Vishwarupa, and Krishna shows him the Vishwarupa. When Krishna showed him the true Vishwarupa, the original Vishwarupa, Arjuna got scared. He says, I didn't ask for this. Show me your gentler form. I didn't ask for this form. And then Krishna showed him an imaginary form. The real form he concealed. And what was that in the real form that Arjuna got terrified? In that real form, he saw birth and death together. He saw birth and death happening together. And he saw that he couldn't take it. What is birth and death means? It doesn't happen over a long period of time. It happens. It is happening most constantly, most consistently. Based on that, we say the person walking into the room is not the person who's walking out. The person who's walking into the room is not the person who's walking out. That person is already changed. Change implies beginning of the change and beginning of it and end of it. The beginning of it is called birth. The end of it is called death. Between birth and death, it exists. So birth, existence, death. Birth, existence, death. This birth and death and the theory of reincarnation. Actually, we can call it as law of reincarnation also. We can call it as law itself because it comes under the chapter, the supreme law, the law of cause. You can call it as the law of reincarnation also. This is the subject matter of the Upanishad called Kathopanishad. This is the subject matter. Birth and death and the reincarnation is the subject matter of the Upanishad called Kathopanishad. Nachiketas comes to Yama. And when he came to Yama, Yama wasn't there. So 3 days he has to wait. And since Yama made him to wait for 3 days, Yama granted him 3 boons. He said, I'll give you 3 boons. First boon, when he asked, straight away he was granted. Second boon, when he was asked, straight away it is granted. When he asked for the third boon, he was tested so much. First boon, there was no test. He asked, let my father be appeased. Granted, he said. About action, yajna karma, he asked, he taught him that. And the way Nachiketas learnt it and absorbed it, Yama was so happy, so happy. He said, I will give you the 4th boon that you didn't ask for, the necklace. The garland that Yama wore, he gave it to Nachiketas because the way that he absorbed action. Till now, they didn't even come to the discussion of philosophy. It's about yajna karma and all that. But then the way he was absorbing it. To philosophy, we are like Padma Patra Ivambasa. To philosophy, Nachiketas is like tissue paper. He was absorbing it so much. We are like Vijay, Padma Patra Ivambasa. Correct? Huh? How much ever we are in it, it doesn't touch us at all. That is one. Nachiketas is like tissue paper. And Karma Yoga he taught. And he absorbed it so well, so well. Yama was so happy. And then he asked for the 3rd boon. And the third boon that he asked is this question. This is the question that he asked as the third boon. And when he asked for the third boon, Yama says, even gods don't understand this, Nachiketas. Even gods don't understand this. Very, very difficult. ரொம்ப கஷ்டம்பா இதெல்லாம் வராது. Leave it. First test. Nachiketas passed that first test. To know this knowledge, you need the qualities of Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshatva. Mumukshatva shows how intensely you want it. So first he was discouraging. A person who is not so interested, he will get, oh, if it is very difficult, then why waste time in that? Let me do something more. So he proved that he doesn't get discouraged. Second is he wanted to test his Vairagya. And how he tested his Vairagya? He tested his Vairagya by giving him temptations. And if you see those temptations that Yama gave, if Yama comes and gives me that, maybe I will take it. Moksha, Brahman, anyway, I will see Brahman and all later. For what Yama gives is unparalleled. He says, you will live as long as you like. No. You will live as long as you like as a youth only. Imagine you are living for 70 years. All the faculties are dead and gone. What is the point of that living? It's not a boon. No, it is a punishment. Isn't it? So he says, you will live. And how you will live? You will live life with the senses will not age. Everybody will get neutralized, Nachiketas. You will not, I will give you a boon that you will never get bored, neutralized. He was lifting, you should read those verses. Sometime we will study that also. Beautifully he gives, tempting him. At one point of time, the list that Yama gave was not, Nachiketas wasn't interested in that list. Horses, I'll give you. I thought about that, Research. He said, I will give you 1,000 horses and I will take care of the maintenance also, he says. Imagine I'll give you 1,100 Rolls Royce, I'll give you. Now, who's going to pay for the insurance? Who's going to pay for the service charges and all that? It becomes a burden, no? Yama says, I'll take care of that also. What an offer he got. Everything he was getting so wonderful. And finally, Nachiketas was getting so bored, he turned to the other side. So when the lectures get too boring, too repetitive, what do you do after a point of time? Yeah. I'll start seeing who has come, who didn't come. Yeah. Why that person came today? Why that person didn't come? Why that person? Background, what is in that background? Venkachalam, so much background is there. What all is there? Rajshekhar is sitting behind books, but looks like he doesn't know any alphabet, but he's sitting behind the library of books. Yeah, he's sitting behind that, no? Whose library it is? Ungulda. Definitely not yours, I know. So, because the class is getting too boring, what do we do then? Similarly, Nachiketas was getting bored. So he turned to the other side. And when he turned the other side, the Apsaras were walking. The divine damsels were walking. He says, Keep them also as long as you wish. You will never get bored of them. You will never get tired of them. Your enjoyment quantum will never come down, and keep them as long as you want. But don't press me to answer this question. Don't press me to answer this question. What is the question? What is this birth and death? That's the question. What is this? What is this birth and death? And when Yama gave out all his lists, Nachikéta said, you keep your horses and you keep your damsels. Answer my question. You keep your horses, you keep your damsels, and answer my question. Why? Because Yama, you told me that I can live as long as I want, but you never told me you have become immortal. What I am asking for is immortality. You are saying your death will be postponed. That's all. What I am asking and what is your offer? Are you able to see the difference? I am asking for something, and what is Yama offering? You buy a gadget, you can buy Care Plus, no? Isn't it? You buy a gadget, there is a guarantee, and then you buy something else, you have a longer guarantee. That's it. But you are not giving me immortality. And Nachikéta says, a beautiful answer he gives. First he says, you keep your horses and damsels. His Vairagyam is proven. Viveka means knowledge. The right, the proper discrimination, the right understanding. What is that right understanding? He says, some say when a person dies, nothing remains. Death is the end of everything. Some say there is continuity. The person who says there is continuity also doesn't know it. The person who says everything ends also doesn't know it. You being the god of death, you are the changeless one. You have crossed the change. So a changeless one alone can tell me what is this changes all about. So Yama, teach me this. I do not want any other boon other than this. And then he goes on to say, that is the last 5-6 sentences is taken from a few mantras of Kathopanishad. The reason for the assurance of longevity is the immortal nature of the self within. Last 5 lines. Every human being is quintessentially the self. That being so, its immortal nature colors the material layers. This is Kathopanishad, which makes his individuality assume a sense of immortality and keeps him free from the thought of how is it that a person not fear change? How is it that a person doesn't get affected by change? What is the connection of birth and death in the context of supreme law? We have read, we have studied Prarabdha, we have studied Purushartha, we have studied Sanchi, all that. What is the connection? Connected to what we said in the beginning. The birth and death keeps happening. The birth and death keeps happening, and where you are born and how you are born is all determined by your own past. Is all determined by your own past actions, guided by dharma or adharma. What is birth and what is death? Actually speaking, there is no birth, there is no death. What happens in birth and death? Yama says, what are you asking, Nachiketas? There is no birth, there is no death. But you see it. That is because of your karma. That is because of the consequences of your action. What do you see as the change is nothing but the consequences of your action, change, consequences, all are synonyms. This is what you have to understand. Action itself means a change, because every action brings about a change in every karma brings about a change in the karta. Every action brings about a change in the doer. Therefore, action, change, consequences, all are interlinked. So we spoke about action, and one of the necessary things that we have to understand along with action is the change. Because action itself means change. Meaning, every action that you do brings about a change in the doer. Change as in adding to the existing direction or bringing about a change in the direction. That is the example: yellow paint, blue paint, green wall, all that example. The connection of birth and death to action is, in every action, something is dying and something is born. In every action, something is dying and something is being born. The question is, what is it? What is it that is dying and what is it that is being born? Between the birth and death, it has an existence. Between birth and death, it has an existence. That timeline may differ for different existences. A tortoise can live for 300 years, may live. They say it lives for 300 years. It means what? My great-grandfather passes away and my grandfather has become a grandfather, then only the tortoise will cross its teenage. That's the time it will cross its teenage only. What? And there are these insects that comes in the initial during the start of the rainy season. The entire lifetime is only 15 minutes. In that 15 minutes, what all it has to do? All that it takes us 80 years to do, it has to do and it does in 15 minutes. It does everything. So, timeline may differ, but there is a continuous action. Timeline may differ, but there is this continuous action. And action brings about a change. What is this action? What is it that is changing? You understand, to understand the change, what is the changeless position from where I can understand the changes? I can see the changes. What is the changeless? What is the changeless position? That changeless position is the self, which is beyond birth and death. Even though we are going to talk about self later, in this context, it has to be discussed. That's why he said it. Rest of it is very clear. Rest of it is very clear. What is it? You go through the cycle of seasons, day, life, all that is a continuous change. Changes are not perceived, changes are understood. Again, I repeat, the law of karma is, technically understand this, the law of karma and all this is not based on pratyaksha, it's not sensory proof, it is inference. It is anumanam, it is inference. Inference means according to the strength of your intellect, your inference would be powerful, sharper, precise. That's why he says, take relevant data, study them carefully, and draw intelligent conclusions from them. Meaning, it is a law that is based on, it is not a law based on pratyaksha, it is a law based on inference. Even though you take data from observation, it's not an observational law. It is you put your finger in the fire, it is an observational law. What is the law? It gets burnt. You put your finger in the fire and it will get burned 6 months later. How can you connect this act and that burn? That is law of karma. Supposing if it is like you put I have put my finger in the fire today, and at the end of the 6th month only it will get burnt. So when it will get burnt, all of a sudden my finger will start. So according to pratyaksha, how it will be? I may go to vote in the election, and as I'm giving my finger for marking, it starts burning. How I can infer that act, that cause with this effect? That is law of karma. The act happened at a point of time, the result happens at another point in time, and then you connect the two through inference. So the law of karma is purely inferential based. So we continue the same principle of inference from karma, action, cycle. Natural corollary to that is reincarnation becomes a natural corollary to that. So because of it coming under the inference, you can still call it as the law of reincarnation. You can still call it as the law of reincarnation. Are able to follow? So it is based on inference. And all knowledges are inference based. Human knowledges are inference based, not pratyaksha, because you don't see it you don't see cause and effect at the same time. If you can see it at the same time, no inference is required because you know it straight away, no? So we are going to see birth and death and the theory of reincarnation combined. And then when we finish theory of reincarnation, you will understand the entire sequence of the supreme law. The entire sequence of the supreme law, what is known as the law of cause and. With this, I conclude for today. We continue with this birth and death and theory of reincarnation next week. Is it okay? Do we have anything? Any clarifications we have? Ganesh, ஏதாவது இருக்குதா?
No, sir. No, sir. No. No questions, no, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. With this, we conclude for today and we continue next week.